Okay, my friends, we are going to begin lying on our back, and you will need your blanket or towel. So just fold your blanket or towel so you have this kind of square shape. And then once you have that, you'll fold it one more final time, so it's this longer rectangular shape. And then place it just to the side for now. We're going to start lying on our backs with our knees bent, feet flat on the ground. And then once you recline back, lift your hips and slide that blanket underneath your hips, your low back, so that your hips really feel supported by the blanket. You can rest your arms in whatever way is comfortable, either out to the side or maybe on the torso. It could be one hand on the belly, one on the chest, and then just take a moment to pause. And start to bring your attention down into your feet, the lower part of your body. So our feet are the foundation of every yoga posture that we do. It's the foundation of our body. So just bringing a little bit of loving kindness down, not judging any discomfort or tightness in the feet, but just noticing what is present. And you might start by taking a slow but deep breath in through the nose. And an exhale or sigh out of the mouth. And now from here, you're going to bring one knee into the chest, raise your leg up towards the sky, and then the other knee into the chest, raise your legs up towards the sky. And now from here, start to roll out your ankles a few times in one direction, making these circular motions on the ceiling. And it doesn't matter if they are big circles or small circles, just starting to get some movement in the ankles. And once you've done that a few times, pause at center and then switch directions. And I know this direction that I'm doing right now is always harder for me. So I'm just going to do a couple extra rounds here. Maybe getting some little creaks out. And once you've done that a few times, bring your feet back towards center. Start to draw your toes back towards your face and then point your toes away from you. And do that a few times. Could be fast, could be slow movements. Doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter the range of motion you get right now, just waking up the feet, the ankles, bringing our attention into that part of the body. And you might start to feel your shins and your calves stretch. And it's all connected. So once we start to bring some more awareness to your feet, you might just notice after practice how the rest of your body feels. Your legs, your hips, even the low back. Let's take another round or so here. And then come back towards center, and then just a few times you're going to spread your toes as wide as you can. It might feel a little weird. And then you're going to imagine you are trying to pick up a piece of paper and curl your toes in. And then spread your toes really wide and curl your toes in, and do that maybe a few more times. Could be smaller movements if you need. If you're starting to get cramps in the feet, make the movements a little smaller. Good, one more round. And then hug your knees into your chest. Give yourself a squeeze. Bend your knees. Place your feet on the floor. Lift your hips. Slide that blanket out from underneath you. Lower your hips down. And then either roll to one side or rock up. We're going to come to a tabletop position from here on hands and knees. So stack your shoulders right over the wrists and stack your hips right over your knees. Tuck your toes under. Even try to get the pinky toe tucked under. Sometimes it doesn't like to cooperate. And then as you inhale, drop the belly, arch your spine for cow pose. Just take an extra breath here. Pull your heart forward and up, slide your shoulders back. And as you exhale, reverse, round the spine. Push the earth away from you. Breathe into the back body. Again, inhale, arch, open the front body. Exhale, round, open the back body. So toes still tucked under. Inhale, arch. This time as you exhale and round your spine, try to hover your knees an inch off the mat. Feel your shoulders spread across the back. Draw the low belly in and then drop to your knees. Inhale, arch. Exhale, reverse, round. Try to hover your knees an inch off the mat. Draw the low belly in. Push the floor away from you. Drop to your knees one more time. Inhale, arch. Pull the heart forward and up. Exhale, round the spine, cat pose. Hover your knees an inch off the mat. And now start to send your hips back and up. Keep a nice bend in your knees. Walk your feet back about a foot. Stay on the balls of your feet and keep a nice bend in your knees. And now press your chest to your thighs. Push your hips up and back. Take a breath in here. And as you exhale, gently drop to your knees. Now bring your legs all the way together, your big toes to touch if you can. And start to walk your hands back. So toes are still tucked under. Now see if you can get even the pinky toe tucked under. I'm going to give it some assistance. Now this might be plenty. You could stay right here. If you want a little more, start to walk your hands back onto your thighs for toes pose. This is a great pose to do every day if you have any tightness in the feet or ankles. And then just to distract ourselves, reach your arms forward, curl your fingers in, and roll out your wrists. Why not give our wrists a little bit of love? Mostly just to distract ourselves from the sensation in the feet. I'm right there with you. Switch direction of the wrist circles. Go the other way. Keep the shoulders relaxed. Make sure you're not holding the breath. One more inhale. Make your way back onto hands and knees, tabletop, point your toes. Pat out your feet a little bit. Make some noise. And then grab that folded blanket. You're going to place it right over the backs of your shins, your ankles. And you can bring your legs about hip width apart here. So now your toes are pointed. You're going to start to sink your hips back towards your heels. And then if you're able to, again, walk your hands back, rest your hands on your thighs. If this is too intense on the knees, then you can stay forward a little more weight in the hands. Now roll the shoulders back. So big toes extended straight back. Keep a lift in your chest, draw the low belly in. And then if you want a little more, turn your fingertips behind you, walk your hands back, and now lean back. Keep your chest up, the belly in. And then last piece for a little more. Now see if you can float your knees off the mat. And breathe. The higher you lift your knees, the more you're going to stretch the tops of your feet. So if you have tightness in the top of your feet or ankle, this is a great pose to do. One more breath. Lower the knees, walk your hands back forward, come forward onto hands and knees, move the blanket away. Find your tabletop, tuck your toes under. We're going to do that whole thing one more time. Inhale, arch the spine, pull your heart forward and up. Exhale, reverse round, try to hover your knees an inch off the mat. Drop to your knees, inhale, arch, open the front body. Exhale, reverse round, try to hover your knees an inch off the mat. One more time, drop to your knees, inhale, arch, cow pose. Exhale, reverse round the spine, cat pose. Float your knees an inch or two off the mat. And now keep a nice bend in your knees. Send your hips up and back. Walk your feet back about a foot, but still stay on the balls of your feet. So your heels are lifted. Push your hips up and back. Press your chest to your thighs. Take a long breath in. And then exhale, drop to your knees. Bring your legs together. Tuck your toes under. Start to walk your hands back. Toes pose. See if you can get even the pinky toes tucked under. You might slide your hands back on your thighs if it's too intense for now. You can keep your heels lifted. Hands could even be on a block here. And the more you practice this, the more easier it gets. I'm not going to say it ever becomes comfortable, but becomes less dreadful, I'd say. And then if you're all the way back with your hands on your thighs, reach your arms forward, spread your fingers, draw your fingers back towards your face, and then point away. And do that a few times. Really just to distract ourselves from the sensations in our feet. See if you can get even your inner ankles to touch. Keep the pinky toes tucked under. Draw the low belly in. One more breath. And then hands to the floor. Point your toes. Pat out the tops of your feet. And now it's over. It's already in the past. Keep your toes pointed. So, option to sit back on your heels without a blanket. If you found it helpful, place that blanket back on the backs of your shins and your feet. You might bring your hands to your thighs. And then see if you can walk your hands back. I like to be on fingertips, fingers facing back. I like my feet about hip width apart here. They don't have to be all the way together. And with your toes pointed, sitting back on the heels, Now you might start to float your knees off the ground. And just really lean back. Relax the eyes, relax the jaw. One more breath. And then exhale, slowly lower your knees, your shins, make your way back to your tabletop position. All right, so from hands and knees, you're gonna place your blanket in front of you, same fold. I'm gonna place my hands on blocks. You can too if it's helpful, but not necessary. And then come to a tabletop, shoulders over the wrist. Maybe you have hands on blocks like me. And from your tabletop, you're gonna step your right toes on the blanket. So I have my foot about halfway up on the blanket, but my heel on the mat. Tuck your back toes, lift the back knee. Come to a runner's lunge. So the ball of my back foot is under my left heel, and I'm just gonna rock forward and backwards a little bit, keeping that front leg bent. And then the next time I press my left heel back, I'm just gonna pause and open the back of the left leg. The calf, the hamstrings. And oftentimes when we have tight feet, we also have tight calves. It's all connected. Take another breath. And then rock back forward so the heel of your back foot is over the ball of the foot. Take an inhale. And as you exhale, you're going to start to straighten the front leg. And if the ground is far away, I would place your hands on those blocks or books, whatever height works for you. So I'm going to press into the right big toe mound. And just breathe. Keep your heart forward. Slide your shoulders away from the ears. Another breath here. And now start to draw your right toes back towards your face. Come onto your heel. Draw your toes back as much as you can. Maybe even a little more than you think you can. And also try to squeeze that right hip back in space, back towards the left heel. So creating length on the entire right side of the body. One more breath. Rebend the front knee. Lower the back knee. Step your right leg back to tabletop. And then switch. Step your left foot about halfway onto the blanket. So I've got the toes, the upper part of my foot on the blanket, but my heel on the ground. Tuck your back toes, lift the back knee, runner's lunge, and then start to shift forward and backwards. Just waking up the joints around that back foot, the front foot. And then the next time you rock back, pause. Imagine there was a wall behind you. Press your right heel into that imaginary wall. Breathe into the back of the right leg, so where your attention goes, your breath can go. Energy will start to shift there. And when a part of the body is tight or weak, it usually needs more attention. We can't avoid it. It needs more love. Rock back forward, take an inhale, and as you exhale, straighten the front leg. And of course, if you need to bring the blocks higher to support your hands, do so. Make the pose work for you. So keep the left big toe mound pressing into the blanket. Send your heart forward and slide your shoulders away from your ears. Breathe into the back of the left leg. And now start to draw your left toes back towards your face. Can you come just onto the heel? And I'm really feeling it on this side. The calf, the hamstrings. Flex your left toes back towards your face. Also try to squeeze the left hip back and in towards the right heel. One more breath. Rebend the front knee. Lower the back knee, come back to your tabletop. Just move your props to the side. And let's come to a downward facing dog. Hands about shoulder width apart, feet about hip width apart. In your down dog, a little bend in the knees, and then just walk out your dog. Pedal out your feet, lift one heel and then the other. As you inhale, come high on your toes, and as you exhale, drop both your heels to the right. Bend your knees quite a bit. Press your chest back towards your thighs. Draw the front ribs in. Relax the head and neck. Take a breath in. And breath out. Come through center. Come high on the balls of your feet. Lift your heels, and then drop your heels to the left. Take a bend in your knees. Press your chest to your thighs. Try to straighten your arms. Draw the front ribs in. Take a breath in. Stay for the breath out. Come through center. Come high on your toes. Take an inhale. And as you exhale, start to walk your feet towards your hands. And if your feet don't make it all the way there, just walk your hands back. And then bring your hands to your hips, lead with your chest, maybe a little bend in the knees, come all the way to stand up. All right. From here, stand with your feet about hip width apart. So about hip bone distance apart and parallel. And parallel is oftentimes a little pigeon-toed with your toes turned in more than your heels. And now just start to rock forward and backwards on your feet. Bringing a little more weight forward into the toes and then a little more back into the heels. And then you might add a little more movement as you rock forward. Try to lift your heels, draw the belly in. And then as you exhale, drop your heels. See if you can lift all your toes off the ground. Rock forward, maybe lift your heels, draw the belly in, lift your knees, your thighs. Exhale, drop the heels. Maybe lift the toes. Do that a couple more times on your own. So it's a bit of a balance. Can you keep your chest over your hips? Keep a lift in the belly. And then just come back through center. Bring your hands to your hips. Step the right foot forward, the left leg back, come to the top of the foot. Now you're going to roll out the ankle. Try to roll over the toes. Just a few times in one direction. This is one of my favorite things to do, especially first thing in the morning when my body's feeling a little tighter. And just to start to lubricate the joints. Come through center, switch directions. Especially after you've been sleeping and lying down, just waking up the feet before you start to walk, before you start your day can make a big difference. Once you've done that a few times, step the left foot forward, the right leg back, come to the top of the foot, and then try to roll over the toes a few times. And keep that lift in the belly so we stand up tall. Notice if one side feels a little different. And then come through center, go the other direction. Circling this way is always more challenging for me. So I'm going to bring my attention down to my feet. Send a little more loving kindness to them. All right, and then step that right foot forward. Now, you will need your block. You might want to be at a wall for this. You're going to place your block or a sturdy book on your mat. We're going to stand with our right foot on the block or the book, and I'm going to stand sideways so I can bring my right hand to the wall. Up to you. Step your right foot onto the block, and then lift your left foot off the ground. Left hand to left hip. Now I'm going to bend my right knee, track the knee in line with the center of the foot, and then lower the left heel to the ground. And then as I inhale, I'm going to straighten the right leg, point my left toes. So I exhale, bend the right knee, my left heel comes down. Inhale, straighten right leg, point. And let's do that 8 more times. I'm going at whatever speed works for you. Really trying to track that right knee over the center of the foot in line with the second toe. And for me, I'm not going too fast. So try to move with awareness, bringing a little more mobility to our feet, to our ankles, and also starting to bring a little more coordination to them. As sometimes our feet can just get a little bit sleepy. Finish the last round or 2 that you're on. And then when you're ready, lower the left foot down and we'll switch. So I'm just going to turn. You can step your left foot onto the block or the book. If you want to be at a wall, left hand at a wall, right hand to the hip. Stand on your left leg. Find your balance. Take an inhale. And then exhale, bend the left knee, track it in line with the second toe, bring the right heel down. Inhale, straighten the left leg, point the right toes. Exhale, bend, heel comes down. Inhale, straighten, point. And then maybe 8 or so more. And each side of your body is different. Maybe your left foot and ankle is a little bit weaker and you go a little slower on this side. Or maybe that left knee feels a little wonky, make smaller movements. So go however fast or slow it makes sense for you. You make the movements however big or small it makes sense for you, but never forcing, never causing pain or harm to the body. Keep the belly drawn in. Stack the crown of the head over the chest over the hips, and just finish your last, 1 to 2 rounds that you're working on. And then when you're done, you'll lower the right foot down. You can move the prop to the side and just stand in your mountain pose. Feet about hip bone apart and parallel, so toes slightly in more than the heels. And then just take a moment to pause. You might even close your eyes. Feel the connection of all 4 corners of your feet pressing into the earth. Notice if you kind of stand more towards the front of your feet or more towards the back. Do you kind of fall to the inside of your feet or to the outside? And then press into all 4 corners of your feet. And as you press into the big toe mound, the ball of the foot, can you lift your inner arch? Lift your knees, your thighs, engage the front of the leg, the quads. And as you press down through your feet, reach the crown of your head up. Feel this sense of grounding, of rooting through the lower body, lifting and lengthening through the upper body. And then gently let your eyes flutter open and slowly come to a seated posture, which is where we'll end. Feel free to sit up onto a block or 2 or your blanket. Just come to a cozy cross-legged seat. Now we're going to end by just kind of massaging out our feet. So you're going to grab one foot. I'm going to start with my left. Interlace your fingers kind of between your toes. So that didn't really make sense. Not really interlace, but see if you can bring your fingers between your toes. And I've got my toes pretty much up to my knuckles. If you're like, I can't get my fingers all the way into my toes, don't stress about it. And you're just going to start to roll out the toes. And this always feels pretty intense at first, getting little creaks out. So just rolling out the feet, the toes like this. I always think about when you're little, or if you are ever around a little kid, their toes are so flexible and they can just like grab stuff with their toes. And then we grow up and our parents or, guardian always says, don't use your feet, that's rude. But really we want to bring some of that flexibility back. Just switch direction if you're doing these circular motions. This is something I also like to do at nighttime in bed with some oil or lotion, and it's very grounding, I feel. So if you're ever feeling some anxiety before bed, you might just massage out your feet a little bit with some warm oil, and it can really start to bring your energy down. And then you can just let that go. Bring your thumbs onto the pads of your feet and just press into your feet. And if there's a spot that feels a little tight or sticky, stay there, but be gentle. Any sharp pains, you decide how long you need to stay there. And then let's switch. So other foot, take your fingers and try to spread them in between your toes. And maybe you only get the tops of your fingers through. Maybe you can get all the way through. If you have rings, it's a little bit harder. You might have to take them off. And then you'll start to roll out the toes in one direction. So if this feels helpful, try this, whether it's first thing in the morning or at night. Probably not while you're at work if you work in an office or anywhere where there's other people. Switch directions. But it makes sense why strengthening our feet, our ankles, stretching them out can bring this sense of calm, of rootedness, of grounding. It's the lower part of our body. It's what supports the rest of our body. So if there's any discomfort in our feet, you can imagine it's going to affect every other thing in our body. Once you've done that, just take your thumbs and massage out the feet. And it doesn't take long. You could do one of the poses that we did today. You could do the whole class every day if it's helpful. But just, small, consistent practices can start to make really big differences in our health overall and how we feel. All right. So feel free to continue massaging and stretching out your feet as long as you'd like. Otherwise, let's just end in a seated posture. Bring your palms together in front of your heart. Take a deep breath in through the nose and a gentle exhale out. And thank you for joining, for practicing with me. Go in peace. Namaste.